Right, hello everybody. My name's Graeme Barr. I'm a sergeant in the police, and I'm in a department called the Community Engagement Team. Our purpose is to communicate and to engage with all different communities, all communities from any minority background, to try and raise awareness around hate crime. Hate crime is any crime which is motivated by prejudice or hostility towards somebody because of their perceived membership of a particular group, a minority group. And that hate crime can be a hate crime whether the victim feels that it's a hate crime or not. Anybody at all who witnesses or observes what's going on or hears about what happened later on after the event, who thinks that that's a hate crime, then it becomes a hate crime. If anybody thinks that that is motivated by prejudice or hostility towards somebody because of their membership of a particular group, then that becomes a hate crime. And the reason why we try and portray publicise what hate crime is so much is because we take it very seriously, especially in Northumbria Police. The reason why we take it so seriously is because hate crime is the crime where you can't do anything about being a victim of hate crime. You're being targeted because of who you are, and that makes that crime harder to overcome as a victim. That makes that crime harder to recover from as a victim, and therefore we have special measures that we put in place for victims of hate crime that we don't necessarily put in place for victims of other crimes. And the way that we deal with that in Newcastle and Gateshead is that we share details of those hate crimes across a lot of different partnerships, across partners within council departments, within education, because we believe that as a collective we can maybe help that victim cope and recover a bit quicker, whilst hopefully investigating the matter at the same time. So every time somebody reports a hate crime, we not only that becomes the starting point to try and catch the perpetrator of the hate crime. That then also becomes a time when we can try and offer all of the victim support that we can to try and help that victim start to recover from it. And the reason why we want people to report hate crimes is because unless we know about the hate crimes and where they're happening, we can't do anything to try and prevent that from happening. It stands to reason, and unfortunately, obviously Islamophobia is definitely a hate crime because people are being targeted because of their religious beliefs or because of the clothes they're wearing, as Yasmin said earlier on. And that is, you're wearing those clothes because that's who you are, and you're being targeted because of who you are, and that makes that harder for you to cope with. But you said you didn't report that to the police. To us, that's really sad for me to hear that in my department, because everything that my department does is to try and highlight the importance of reporting hate crime, because it's only then that we can start to try and do something about it, and it's only then that we can try and help you cope and recover, because there are partnerships that we have. It's not just the police, it's not just somebody in uniform trying to help you get over that, it's the partnerships that we have with other organisations. So how bad is Islamophobia in the northeast of England? Well, recorded incidents and how bad Islamophobia are two entirely different things. We've already heard from Yasmin earlier on, and she said that she didn't report it to the police. We heard from Matt earlier on talking about how much Islamophobia he sees on Northumbria University campus. I can guarantee you that only a fraction of those incidents are being reported, and if they're not reported, then we're not accurately reflecting that. And for me, yes, the latest figures show that Islamophobic incidents are increasing. That's the figures show that Islamophobic incidents are increasing. But please don't take this the wrong way. For me, that is a good thing, because the figures are showing that it's increasing, so more people are reporting them to us. And I want to get to a situation where every Islamophobic hate crime is reported to the police, because that's when we can start to highlight the problem that exists. That's when we can start to do something to try and stop it from happening. And that's when we can start to try and help those victims start the recovery process from the crimes that they've been subjected to. So what can we do as a wider society to try and stop this? Whether you're a Muslim or not a Muslim, if you see an Islamophobic hate crime, please report it to the police. We don't always need the victims to come forward to prosecute a hate crime. quite often there are other means by which we can do that. There are other witness testimonies that we can use. We can use CCTV, we can use other situational factors that allow us to prosecute the offenders. Abu Tayyib mentioned the incident on the metro with Rui Rahman, and this was an incident on the 23rd of November this year. A young Muslim lady who was 23 years old was sat on the metro carriage 10 days after the Paris attacks, and she was subjected to verbal abuse by one drunk person on the metro carriage. And all of the other people on the metro carriage turned against the one drunk person on the carriage, and they called him out for his behaviour. They shouted at him, they called him down for what he was saying, and he got off the metro. He was pretty much taken off the metro at the next stop. That man has now been identified because the reaction of the other people on the metro emboldened Rui Rahman to come forward to the police and tell us her story and report the crime. And she supported the prosecution. That prosecution finished yesterday with a conviction at court for that young man. And that is a good story, but it's only one. What it shows, I think, I hope, is that as a society here in the northeast of England, we're supportive of people who are victims of hate crime, but we need those people to come forward. We need those people to identify themselves as victims of hate crime so that we can go down that path of highlighting it as an issue and trying to prevent it from happening. So if you are a victim of hate crime yourself, be you a man or a woman, then or a younger person, obviously it's a very frightening experience, and obviously don't think the first thing that you're going to be thinking at that moment is, this is really frightening, I'm going to tell the police, because quite obviously that might come further down the line. But if you've got a member of your family telling you that something like that has happened, please encourage them to report it to the police. Please help them report it to the police if that's what they need, please. And you don't always have to report it to the police. There are third-party reporting mechanisms in place across Newcastle and Gateshead, and across Northumbria police area. You can go into council offices, which are safe reporting centres. You can go into report via third-party systems such as Arch, and there's a few leaflets around the place in regard to Arch. But the Arch won't necessarily, if you ask them not to, they won't tell us the details of the victim, but they'll identify the offence to us, and an investigation will still take place. But the best way to combat it is if a victim can be emboldened to come forward and report it themselves, or get somebody to report on their behalf, so that we can talk to the victim directly and get their testimony. I've written down here, has there been an increase in reported Islamophobic incidents since Paris or Leytonstone or any of the recent incidents? And unfortunately, I say unfortunately, there hasn't been an increase in the number of reported Islamophobic incidents. But every single person who's spoken tonight has said there has been an increase in Islamophobic incidents, and that's the big issue as far as we're concerned. Myself and my colleague, we go out, and others like us within the area command, we go out to groups, we go out to mosques, we go out to, we've been to see Abu Tayyib at IDC, we've given talks to sisters groups, and I see some of the sisters who were at that talk are here tonight. And it's all, and there's leaflets, and there's media campaigns, and there's everything just to try and persuade people to come and tell us if they've been a victim of hate crime. And that's the purpose of me being here tonight as well. It's just the more we can encourage you, the more we can convince you, the more confidence we can give you, and what reaction you'll get from the police if you did report a hate crime. The more you understand that that's the way to try and turn around the way society and change the attitudes, the prevailing attitudes in society. Then that's the purpose of my team. That's what we're trying to achieve. One of the big things that upset me, and I do a bit of speaking to groups in my role, and I usually try and start with a joke, but this doesn't seem like a jokey kind of night, and after Yasmin spoke, I thought, well, that's probably not appropriate really. Yasmin said they can, she thought to herself when she was getting the babies, they can say what they like to me as long as they don't come across. I hate the sound of that, because that's normalising hate behaviour. By saying they can say what they like to me as long as they don't come across, you're normalising hate, and verbal abuse is just just as much a hate crime as physical abuse. So name calling on account of your religion is a hate crime. So report it to the police. We're not scared of figures. We're not. In fact, partners who we work with across council partners have a target to increase the number of hate crimes. Now that sounds horrendous, but it's actually to increase the number of reported hate crimes. Because the more we increase the number of reported hate crimes, the better picture, the better understanding of what's happening we get. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening.